If I asked you if your ordinary life that you might live and lead is something to regret, what would you answer? Because I feel like with the ongoing, pressure to be someone, to be something, mainly propelled by social media, you are essentially tied to being successful, to do things that enrich your LinkedIn profile and your CV, and not necessarily things that enrich you as a person. And while I was reading this book, Cats is the Paper of the World, in which essentially a brain cancer character, like a character with brain cancer, gets a deal with the devil in which he can extend his life every day by wishing that a certain item or certain thing didn't exist. So every day he wishes for something that does appear, disappears, and he gets a day of life. And here's the thing, when we are conditioned to try to achieve a lot of things without necessarily thinking, how does this fit into my worldview, into how I view my life? A lot of things that we do and we have are shallow. And that is something the character does recognize. But like I don't want to spoil you the book, but I'll just share more things about the book starting from here. So if you don't want to read the book or you don't mind spoilers, feel free to not watch the video. Otherwise, just stick around. So one of the things that he recognizes halfway through the book is that there are certain things in life that you cannot quantify, but make your life worth living or make your own identity, exceptionally you. Like you as an individual, you are special because, for instance, you have certain interests, you have certain things and moral values that only you have in this combination. And the character in the book, he knows that. Like he figures it out because one of the things that he wishes to disappear for him to live on is movies. And movies are his only hobby. Movies were the way he met his girlfriend and he forged relationships. So imagine there is something in your life that made you a magnet for interactions. Maybe it's your love for books. Maybe it's your love for videos. Maybe it's your love for, food and going out. Maybe going to clubs is your thing, right? And you have certain interests and values that bring you to other people. Because what is life without other people? Specifically now, when you look at statistics and you see that Gen Z feels very lonely, you tend to think that maybe this is all because of social media. And I tend to think that this might be partially true, because we are being shallow, increasingly shallow. A lot of things that we do, as I mentioned, they're not for ourselves, right? For instance, if I asked someone at any Ivy League, why are you studying major XYZ? They will probably tell you, independent of their major, by the way, that they'd like to go to consulting and finance or into venture capitalists or being a trader. All in all, I wouldn't judge because maybe that is their passion. But for how many people are the things they're doing in accordance to their life? Because the character in the book, by the way, who was unnamed, right? So maybe we can relate to him more. He is a post man, like he just brings letters and that's it. And you don't have a feeling that, this job is quite aligned with his life because he never figured out what he wants to do. In the book, he tries to write down a bucket list of things he'd like to do before he dies, and he can come up with 4 points. from which three are essentially tied to finding someone that he can love. I think if you've read the book and if you're doing annotations, I'm thinking about the character, you might notice that our life, as beautiful as it is, as cruel as it might be, has a purpose because you don't just exist for no reason. Everything that is here has a certain purpose to it. That is essentially also one of the main messages of the books. If you don't feel empowered in thinking about your own purpose and using values to accelerate to reach your purpose or bring your purpose into life, then maybe reading books could help. Because the ordinary life, right, like coming back to the initial question, the ordinary life is not something to be regretted, is not something you need to be ashamed of because social media tells you that it's not enough. The ordinary life has a purpose because otherwise it wouldn't exist. The ordinary life can have your purpose if you choose to live it that way. And that is maybe what life is about, right? Like maybe it's about thinking and finding certain structures to use to propel yourself forward to reaching a certain purpose or goal for that matter. And I think that's it, right? And I also think that if you think about this, it does help you to kind of establish a distance between you and social media expectations, between you and maybe even societal expectations, because these expectations, again, they don't necessarily account for you. Like you can do a lot of things that agree with societal expectations, but maybe you do them because you genuinely believe that there is a higher purpose if you do them. And I don't think our generation has been trained to think like that. Maybe you came across mottos like Memento Mori and Carpe Diem, or maybe you've watched That Poet Society, but that is not enough. Because if you only realize that life has an end, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can think about certain goals and certain things that you want in your life, even if your life might be ordinary. Because obviously your life is going to end. The question is, will you make the most out of it according to your values, or, will you just let it pass, like the character in this book, and have a devil appear and ask you every day for a certain item to disappear that made you you? Yeah, I think that's it. If you stuck around until this point, thank you, and see you for the next video. Bye.